Barry.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to Money Matters with Shannon Jackson, the personal finance show focused on moving you forward financially. On today's show, we're talking about the step back culture that's taking place. Now, there's no doubt the pandemic has changed attitudes when it comes to work and the workplace, and there's more focus on work-life balance and more focus on finding a position that brings you more fulfillment and less stress. Now, is opting out something that you're considering? Before you step back, our guest today has some advice to ensure you are financially prepared. She has more than a decade of experience in the financial services business. She's a certified financial planner and a chartered investment manager. She's also fellow of the Canadian Securities Institute, a published author and sought-after financial expert for many Canadian media outlets, a regular contributor to the Globe and Mail, and recent recipient of the 2022 5-star Leading Women in Wealth Award by Wealth Professional Canada magazine. She also is someone who volunteers her time in support of the financial needs of women, and with Junior Achievement Canada is helping to grow the financial literacy skills of our youth. She's also the founder and president of Castlemark Wealth Management. Robyn Thompson, thank you for being here on Money Matters.
It's so great to be here.
It is an impressive biography. Can you tell us a little bit more about your background and a little bit about Castlemark Wealth Management?
Absolutely. Well, first of all, it's great to be here. There's a lot of acronyms in the financial services industry, and there's chartered this and fellow this. And I think that, at the end of the day, it's our job, or my job as someone who works in the financial service industry, to be able to provide holistic wealth solutions to people, Canadians, to my clients, and be able to educate you and give you some tips and tools that you can use to be able to further your own financial knowledge and to create strong financial decisions in your life. So again, as you mentioned, I'm the president of Castlemark Wealth Management, and it is a holistic financial planning firm where we essentially help our clients create the meaningful life that they want to have. And we just structure their finances in a way that they get to achieve those things. And I love to volunteer with kids and teach children about financial literacy. I myself grew up on welfare for many years in my life, so I know what it's like to not have. So it's important for children to know, and for young people to understand the impact that you can have in your life if you start to take steps when you're younger.
I absolutely agree with being able to train our young people earlier so that they're better prepared for their future. So thank you very much for your efforts in that.
Oh,
and
welcome.
So today we're talking about the step back culture. And it's something that we're hearing more and more about these days. It's sort of trending. And so for those who aren't familiar with that phrase, step back culture, can you define that for us?
It's exactly as it sounds. It's, you're stepping back from the traditional workforce and you're taking a minute to recalibrate. You're looking at this and saying, okay, so how do I want to show up in my life? Is this that I want to take a few years off and raise my young family? Is it that I want to change careers entirely? Maybe you worked years in your current career and you're getting to a place now where you're like, do I really want to do this for the next 15, 20 years? And sometimes the answer to that is no. Or it could just be simply looking at it and saying, I want to be able to do a few different things. So it could be resigning a full-time position for 2 part-time positions, but it's about stepping back, taking a big wide view of saying, of course I need to continue to make some money, but how do I want to do that?
Now, it seems like this is going to be the new normal as we move forward. There was one survey that I read that work-life balance is more important now to Canadians than even their salaries. And prioritizing that work-life balance is a top factor for either remaining in their current workplace or possibly exploring some new opportunities. And I know many companies now promote this balance in their hiring process to encourage new job applicants. And it's definitely something that's become more of a priority since the pandemic. Now, according to that same survey, 15% of employed Canadians voluntarily transitioned either to a new position, a new industry, or left the workforce altogether during or since the pandemic. And I'm sure that that's going to keep increasing. I actually personally know a number of people that have either retired earlier than expected or they completely changed their career path. And when Canadians were asked why they decided to change their career path, there were three main reasons that they gave. It was either there was changes in their personal lives, the need to maybe limit their workload or their stress level, or they had a desire for more flexible hours. So we're certainly hearing that this opting out or stepping back is becoming more and more popular. And it seems that women are trending towards this a little bit more than men are. Can you give us some examples of some women recently that have made this choice?
Mm-hmm. And again, I don't think it's female or male specific, but the research that I've done and some of the conversations I've had with both clients and sort of in the main media, we've seen a lot of really powerful people and women specifically in positions that have decided to take that step back. So one would be Sheryl Sandberg. She was the chief operating officer over at Meta, and she decided to step back to focus on her charity work. So very successful woman. Another one is Jacinda Ardern. So she was the youngest, or the world's the world's youngest leader, so the former Prime Minister of New Zealand. And she's actually also the second woman in history to have a child during elected office. And she stepped back after 2 terms. And her conversation, or her sort of leaving statement to people of New Zealand, was that, she hopes that she believes that they will have the belief that they can be both kind and strong, and they can be empathetic, but they can also make decisions, and that they can be optimistic and also to be focused and to really be the leader that they want to be. And in her case, that meant taking the decision to step back because she knew when it was time for her to leave. So it's really important to look at some of these big high-profile figures and be like, these are very successful women in their outright. Another one is Marie Kondo. I'm sure we all know her. She's the queen of organization and tidy. And after her 3rd child, she sort of take a step back from that rigorous, environment of always having things tidy and always having things neat. Because let's be honest, Shannon, we can't all escape the sharp Legos on the floor, and things get to be a bit of a disarray sometimes. So it's about looking at these women and understanding that this is not a conversation of crashing and burning or being forced out or pushed out or something that's against their will. It is a demonstration of agency, of women saying, no, I see something bigger on the horizon for myself. I see something more, and I am not afraid to pivot to be able to go after what's really important to me. And I think that's very powerful.
And you just mentioned as well that it's not necessarily having to do with any kind of burnout, because that's not what this decision is, it seems. It is, like you say, it's a deliberate choice that isn't necessarily linked to that feeling of exhaustion. So what are some of the motivating factors that professionals are taking into consideration when they're choosing to step back?
Well, one is definitely purpose. During COVID, as you mentioned earlier, COVID has changed the world. It has changed the way we think. It has changed the way we work. It has changed the way we live. It has changed the way we love. It has fundamentally created a new space for people to step back and say, okay, I never thought I could do this job remotely. I never thought that I could take some time off and still be productive, that I could work from home with, my suit jacket on top and my pajamas on bottom and still get the same type of work done. So I think that people have started to look at this world and from new eyes. And it's not just the pandemic related, but it's also the technology that's happened during the pandemic and the advances for us to be able to log in remotely, click in remotely. So people want to have that. I don't need to spend 2 hours driving and commuting to and from an office. That's 2 hours of my day that I've now lost with my family or exercise or meditation or whatever it is that they want to spend their purposeful time at. They're not as willing to give that time up anymore because they can see they can be just as effective doing it in a different way. So I think that's one. And the second is that during the pandemic, a lot of people lost a lot of people that they love. A lot of people, were really sick. I got really sick during the pandemic. I had a lot of family members and friends that got really sick. And when you see people around you, fall sick or die or don't come through a disease, it shifts your perspective to think, what am I doing all of this for? Like, what are my blood, sweat, and tears for? And having these conversations about, why am I doing this? And how am I showing up for my family and myself is really become a driving conversation. Employers are letting people work from home for a lot of the times. There is some callback to work. I think that's going to be a bit of a struggle, but hybrid is definitely here to stay. So as you mentioned, I think it's just about people looking at their lives in a different way.
Yeah, I think you're right in that it's perhaps maybe a different combination of there seems to be more of an opportunity now to be able to have that step back. But also I think we've changed in our thinking in making our priorities as well. And I think the combination of those two has led to this change in workforce that we're stepping back from our traditional careers, or careers that we've been working towards for many, many years, to reshift our priorities in that way. I think as well, there's, like you say, there's been sort of these crises in families. Maybe we've lost people that we've loved over the last 2 or 3 years, and that has changed our thinking as well. And perhaps maybe there's been a crisis even in your work environment. Mm-hmm. There's been a shift in the atmosphere in which you're working. So I think a number of those factors have come into play. Do you sort of agree with that?
Absolutely. And I think that people are recognizing that, employers are recognizing that. Mental health was a real problem, has been a real problem throughout the pandemic. And when you're thinking about how it means to a workforce, what it means to employees, our lives, for the most part, pre-pandemic, we lived in small communities in our workplaces, in our work environments. And I think the mental health of a significant amount of people, kind of went through ins and outs during that time. And even employees are looking at, financial wellness programs, mental wellness programs to help people kind of come back to a place to reset. I don't think people can ever go backwards, but you can certainly find a new balance on how to work going forward, and understanding that the dynamics of being in an office or being in that work environment, I think it takes two things. Number one, I do believe that there is collaboration that happens when you are in an office with other people. I think that community of who we are as people, and the acknowledgement of, wow, that person actually has a skin tone and has, a pink lip in my case, or that they're real people and they've also had struggles and strife, and they may not be as open to have a conversation like that over Zoom or another one of the electronic platforms because it's so impersonal. So there is a coming togetherness of being in an office together, but then there's also the ability to be able to find different ways to communicate with our staff, to communicate with our leaders, with our team, with our teams in a different way that wasn't there before. So again, everything that you're saying, spot on, but it comes down to the fundamental purpose of who we are now.
I agree. And so we're going to continue this discussion after our break. Okay. And so while opting out and being part of that step back culture sounds inspiring, is it an opportunity that everyone should be considering? And if it's something that you're considering, it's important to know that there are some financial implications to think about. And Robyn's going to share her advice on what you should consider before you step back when Money Matters returns.
This program is brought to you by Ignite TV. Now you're in command. Visit Rogers.com for more details.
We all start on different bases, and only some of us make it safely home. Anyone can get stuck on first. Without a clear path to home base, there are over 235,000 Canadians experiencing homelessness every year. Raising the Roof is on a mission to help all those in need find a safe place to call home. With every purchase of a Raising the Roof baseball cap, you are helping us get one step closer to ending homelessness in Canada. Visit raisingtheroof.org to get yours today, because everyone deserves a home base.
What kind of show do you want to see on Rogers TV? What interests you? Log on to rogerstv.com, fill out a show proposal, and tell us about your segment idea. We want to know what you want to see. Rogers TV, only on Rogers.
Welcome back to Money Matters with Shannon Jackson. My guest today is Robyn Thompson. certified financial planner, chartered investment manager, fellow of the Canadian Securities Institute, and founder and president of Castlemark Wealth Management. And we're talking about step back culture, which is a growing trend. More and more workers are choosing to opt out, stepping away from the conventional workforce and, as Robyn put it, recalibrating, trying something new, sometimes because it gives them a better work-life balance. Sometimes it gives them a greater joy and less workplace stress. And as Robyn mentioned earlier, it's all about creating your own definition of success. Now, is this something that you are considering? As inspiring as it sounds, it's important to know that there are risks, and a big one can be your financial well-being, because opting out can come with a cost. So Robyn, we're going to talk about those financial implications of stepping back, because as inspiring as these stories are, is opting out a realistic choice for the average person?
That depends on people's commitment to their choices and what their cash flow and their budget looks like. It is not for everyone. I mean, it is something that you are doing, again, based out of agency. This is not a let's get up to the end of the line and jump off without seeing what's below us, because that's not financially responsible to do. So I would never recommend that you make a huge life change without understanding the financial implications of that. So I think that when you're thinking about taking a step back, and the first place would to stop and think about, where are you in your career? Are you in a place where you are potentially wanting to step back permanently? Do you want to step back for a year and take a sabbatical? Do you want to change your career entirely? So first is to understand, is this just a question of stepping back, or are you in burnout? Are you in fact, needing a rest and a respite, and you'll continue on with this career going forward? If it's no, I would like to do something different for the remainder of my working life, then it's about looking and understanding, okay, so what do I want to do? And what do those types of jobs or running a business, what does the income look like? What does the salary look like? What do the benefits look like? What are the different options that are going to be available to me if I do step down that road? It's important to understand what that looks like. If you're going from a job that is a defined benefit pension plan job with full benefits and employer profit matching programs, and you have all of these bonuses and perks and a high salary, and you decide that you want to go and work with animals, or work somewhere that has, the pay scale is not as large. What does that mean to you in your financial decisions? Can you still keep the lights on at the end of the day? Can you still, make sure that you are feeding yourself with the price of lettuce and groceries these days? And, can you make a financial responsible decision and still live your dream at the same time? So it's going to take some pulling some numbers apart, getting really clear on your numbers right now, and then looking at it and saying, okay, where can I give a little? Where can I take a little? Maybe you're moving to a job that pays even more money than you're making right now. But if it's paying less, you have to have a really clear understanding of what the impact is that to your finances.
So it definitely takes some planning if you're going to be making this choice. Now, what do you say to those who are of the opinion where you don't need the safety net? Take the plunge, go for it, and that's how you're going to succeed. How would you respond to that?
Don't do it. So I would respond to that. Listen, I believe in visualization. I believe in manifestation. I believe in, putting yourself out there who you want to be. You can see from around me in my office right now. I mean, I'm surrounded by the things that I love, things that inspire me. But I think that you also need to understand that, that visualization and manifestation and dreams are very real, but they take actionable steps in order to have that happen. The world is not going to open up and from the clouds, money is going to fall into your bank account or into your lap. So this is about being conscious in your decision to say, in order for me not to put my family or myself in financial distress, I need to be responsible about how I strategically manage my money going forward. So I'd recommend 3 to 6 months worth of money in a savings account that you can use to be able to bridge that gap. If it is something that you can do within the next 3 to 6 months, as far as what employment looks like, Go online, look at the job searches, see what's out there, see what the pay scale is, see what the benefits are. If it is starting a business, what are the other businesses that are like yours that you want to start? How long did it take them to launch? Look for local networking groups. There's lots of them online. There's lots of them in local communities. Look for local startups or mentors to be able to have these conversations around, I'm looking to make a change in the next 3 to 6 months. What am I stepping into? What do I need to do? How do I prepare myself? Because again, as we talked about throughout the show, this is not a crash and burn. This is a direct pivot. So if you're going to pivot, you need to make sure you know which direction your boat's going into. So again, no, I do not recommend the, hope and prayer financial plan, because that never works out.
Yeah, I agree. It definitely takes some conscious planning to make that decision, definitely. And so sometimes this opting out or stepping back can look like quite a drastic change in lifestyle. Like you say, perhaps you're moving into a position where the income is going to be less, but it's going to give you more personal satisfaction in the role that you're going to be doing. What advice do you have for people that are going to be making that shift when it comes to their finances?
A couple of suggestions, or recommendations rather. One was to understand, what is it that you're trying to do? So are you trying to step back and focus on your family, raising your kids? And in which case there may not be any financial rumination at all. So then it's about, what's the division of labor within your family unit? How do you make sure that, is there enough income coming in from the other person in your life to be able to support what that looks like from raising your family? And how long is that? Maybe it's just a short period of time. Maybe it's not 15 or 20 years. Maybe it's 5. So get an understanding that, is there a financial change to what you're looking to do? The next one is that look and see what you already have. So as an example, I've had several clients throughout the pandemic that have wanted to make a change in their career, or they've been laid off because they're in the tech sector and the tech sector has had some issues, especially when it comes to people being laid off. So when you're stuck with this, what do I do now? In some cases, if you have investments in a portfolio that you've been collecting over your working period of time or working life, look to perhaps change that into an income producing portfolio for a while instead of growth. So instead of looking for that strong capital appreciation or growth of stocks, maybe change it into one where you're receiving distributions and dividends, so you can augment some of your expenses with some money coming out of your portfolio, so you can kind of bridge that gap in between. So do look to see, what are the different things that I can do in my current life to be able to manage where I'm at. That could also be if you're looking to bridge into retirement. So it's really just about looking at understanding, again, that word that everybody hates to hear is budget. Budgeting is important when you decide to make a really strong decision when it comes to reducing your financial inflows and what it looks like. So there's a cost to everything, Shannon. Do you want to take your family on vacation, or do you want to pursue a career that has different purpose? Do you want to shop at the no frills and the no name brands and save some money there? Or do you want to shop at, top tier stores? So everything that you have in your life is a choice. And the number one determinant of how wealthy we are is our behaviors, because it's more about how we behave with money than it is necessarily about the numbers and the math of itself. Because if you can get your behaviors in line with where you want to be, the rest will start to come into play, because it'll no longer be a sacrifice. It will be I'm doing this because I want to be here in my life. And that sacrifice is worth it. Does that make a lot of sense?
Absolutely. I think you're saying that that reason for making that choice, that why, is really critical before you step into actually making the change. Mm-hmm. Because once you have that reason for opting out or changing careers, whatever that happens to be, I think your focus changes and your priorities change to align with that why reason that you're making that choice. When you're talking about budgeting there, I think once you have that concrete reason why you're making the decision to opt out, it then filters down to help you to make those choices in your budget between those wants versus the needs. Would you agree with that?
You're just making a different decision. But once you become clear on the decision, the other things start to come into play. But it is important to talk about that you look at all the material. This isn't just, oh, what does my paycheck look like? It's what does my retirement benefits look like? What does my health care plan look like? What does this look like from an overall perspective? And I think that sometimes people get lost in the weeds around that because there's a lot of information. I mean, there's people out there like myself, certified financial planners and chartered investment managers, people that help people get a clear view on what they have so they can make decisions. And sometimes people step back and say, well, I can't make a decision because I don't even know. Like, I don't know how to manage my finances. I don't know what I have. I don't know what I don't have. I don't know what that means. And I think that fear keeps people stuck maybe in places for too long. So in some cases, it's about reaching out and understanding and speaking to a professional, and whichever level they be. Maybe it's a debt counselor, maybe it's a career counselor, maybe it's a financial planner, maybe it's an investment manager. But don't think you have to do all of this by yourself. In fact, you should not do this by yourself, because unless you are someone who's been trained in financial services, or you're just whip smart when it comes to personal finance, chances are you don't know all the questions to ask. You don't know all the things to look at. So don't be afraid to step out and ask for help. This is why we are here. This is why financial people are here. So go to your advisor and say, this is what I want to do. Tell me what I have to do. What do I have to cut back on? What does it look like? What's the impact of this decision? And I think that will go a really long way.
Equate that to having your own toolkit. I'm definitely an advocate of reaching out to those professionals that can give you that advice if you are unfamiliar with whatever you're walking into. So the financial planners, the debt consultants, like licensed insolvency trustee like myself, or as well as the people in the career or path that you are looking to change into as well. What steps did they take in order to get into the position that they're in now, if that's going to be your goal? So I absolutely agree to tap into those experts and to embrace the information that they're giving you, because it is valuable. Absolutely. Now, the one thing I was thinking about when researching this topic of this step back culture was the feeling of, what about all of the time and money spent in the education that we've gone through, the time that we've spent in our current careers, and perhaps there might be this guilty feeling of wanting to step away and do something different, but we've invested so much in what we've already been doing. Do you have any thoughts about that?
Oh, I have so many thoughts about that, Shannon. I think that I'm one of those people. So for many different years, I've had a few different careers in my life. I mean, I started off as a journalist for a while, and then I went to marketing before I went into financial services. And when you put yourself on the line and you say, I am going to be this, and then you go out dutifully and you go to school and you take your classes and you have your licenses and you get your first job and you work your way up and you work your way up, you have a degree of familiarity with the position. You have ownership over the position. You have demonstrated agency over that role. So I guess the question becomes is, what is the opportunity cost here? Because there's a cost to not pursuing new opportunities. So I think it's about then saying, okay, great. So if I can't see myself doing this for a long period, what can I do? And what is the opportunity for me then to earn money in a different way, to show up and purposefully in a different way? Because that will start to push money towards you. It'll push opportunities towards you because you're standing and landing in a place that you want to be. So there's definitely a cost to leaving, but there's also a cost to staying. So you just need to spend some time to figure out what that looks like.
Well, thank you so much, Robyn, for being here today and sharing your advice. And I also want to thank you, our viewers, for watching. Until next time, I'm Shannon Jackson.
Call the Rogers TV viewer response line. Email us or connect with us on social media.
At St. John Ambulance, we're all about community. We teach life-saving skills and provide community support through